Integrated manufacturing system where we know that every raw material that goes into the product that can defend you, that can filter the air, that can purify the air, that can purify the water, is made in America. It's made by Americans. My name's Jonathan Rose. I'm the chairman and CEO of American-made Filtration Corporation. It's both an honor and deeply humbling to have the opportunity to present to you today. First of all, I want to introduce you to the American-made Filtration Corporation. We are an American-owned and American-based manufacturer of melt-blown and spun-blown fabrics that have unique chemical compounds and properties that allow them to self-sterilize or deactivate pathogens in less than 5 minutes. Then I want to go on and give you a little bit of a background as to how we got here, talk to you about our incredible team and their incredible track record, and then go on to tell you about how you can help us in our mission of protecting and keeping America safe. So to give you a little bit of background, when COVID first hit, I was on the board of a large company that had about 6,000 employees in China. We started doing our disaster recovery planning back in November and December of 2019. And what was incredibly evident to us was clearly going to be a global pandemic, that all the high quality masks were taking a German fabric, and it was a very inefficient supply chain, gross inefficiencies. But also, much more important to us, there was a huge national security implication. When you have a product that is moving around the globe and is made in many different places, and many different places have the ability to impact or touch that product, the risk of contamination or the risk of substitution of an inferior quality product becomes incredibly high. And this became something that was really fundamentally important to us. How do we solve this problem? How could we make sure that the products were safe? To give you an idea or an inclination of this, from our understanding, about 40% of the masks that have been shipped to the US, primarily from China, have been made of substandard materials. And the reason I think that this has happened is what we saw in the early days of COVID was China basically banned the shipment outwards of its high quality German fabrics that they were receiving. They kept them all domestically. And then Germany actually stopped shipping their product to China and kept it domestically while they met their own demand. A country is using a methodology of unconventional warfare and has chosen to attack the population, and we are buying our primary defense mechanism or our primary defense to that from the country that actually started the attack. So potentially in the future it became a huge problem, so we started to look at how to resolve this. And what we did was we sat down with the manufacturers of the major machines. They're enormous machines. They're very expensive. They're in the sort of $12 to $50 million range per machine. And we started looking at how long it was going to take to get hold of machines, when they could be shipped, and how many you could buy, and also the efficiencies of manufacturing that way. We purchased the option for a variety of machines, which are at the time were 18 months out, and everyone thought we were a little crazy, but are now due for delivery. And we obviously a pandemic that's still going on. We see that the virus is mutating. There's a double mutation in India. There's the English mutation. There's the Brazilian mutation, which seem to be requiring booster shots or adjustments to any vaccines to make the vaccines effective against them. So we see a long-term requirement for masks. We also saw a very interesting characteristic that happened very early in the days in New York, where buildings would have a central air system, an air handling system, and if one person got sick in the building, it very rapidly spread throughout the building and contaminated everyone. We heard a story out of China of an ice cream plant where the plant used contaminated water, and the water very rapidly spread the COVID-19 and the pathogen through a large population of people who used and consumed the ice cream. So we're seeing an incredible need to filter air and water to a very high quality. And the way to do that obviously is with the right filtration fabrics. And we actually have done a deal with a research and science team and a patent holder on a product that actually deactivates COVID and other pathogens within 5 minutes of contact. And when you put that in perspective, that in the situation of hospitals, cruise ships, airplanes, military installations or facilities, and foreign offices, you would basically be recycling the air every 5 minutes with a much higher degree of purity and without airborne pathogens, which would be quite groundbreaking and game-changing. So this is what we're looking to do. We're looking to build a plant in Texas with about 30 machines, 20 to 30 machines, depending on how much funding we can receive. The economies of scale on this are critical because when you do it with 1 or 2 machines, it's not actually economically viable. There have been a variety of people have tried it. There are only about 6 or 8 of these machines domestically to the US, but a variety of people have tried doing it with 1 or 2 machines and it just doesn't work. You need a lot of machines, you need trains, you need a lot of infrastructure, you need silos with pneumatic conveying. It's a very complex process. We have hired some of the best people in the business and they are working with us. We've designed the plant, we have designed the pneumatic conveying systems. We actually have a deal on a plant that we're looking to build from a greenfield, which is going to take about 9 months. The machines are due to be delivered around then, and then they are actually on a full contract with the Germans who will be installing them, setting them up, making sure they work, guaranteeing supply, guaranteeing quality, guaranteeing uptime, and will actually be working with us to maintain the machines and train all of the staff on them. They will also have real-time monitoring to make sure that the fabric being produced is actually the best and highest quality fabric, and a variety of other processes that will make sure that the fabric and product that comes out of our plant is the best building block that's available for anything that we need in America. We will be selling directly to the government for end products, so N99 masks, HEPA filters, air filters. We will also be supplying US government prime contractors and anyone who is looking to make water filtration products, air filtration products, masks, etc., that use our raw materials. And we have built the most incredible team. Some of our team members are going to introduce themselves to you, but we've taken captains of the military, of science, of finance and capital markets, and we've brought everyone together in a very harmonic team who are going to introduce themselves now and tell you about their skills and their skill sets.
Hi, I'm Linda Brzezinski, co-founder and chief operating officer for American Made Filtration Corp. I spent the last 25 years in leadership across operations and human resources. This includes distribution, technology, business development, project management, and accounting. This gives me a unique insight into the crossroads of people, process, technology to improve operational efficiencies. I've been through 3 startups, 5 mergers and acquisitions, and an exit. I've helped grow organizations from 6 people to over 1,000. And I'm very passionate about growing American Made Filtration Corp for the US so that we can become independent and self-sufficient. This really is a matter of national security. We need to keep our military, our people, and loved ones safe. If you feel the same, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Lou Gibson. I have a PhD in microbiology and virology, and I come to the board with a lifetime of experience in microbiology, microbe detection, and bacteria and virus removal from biological products. I've worked with many different filtration devices and modalities during my career in human drug process development, and I'm aware of the limited number of global filter manufacturers. In fact, I've experienced filter shortages and delivery delays during my projects. I look forward to lending my technical expertise to the board with my broad knowledge of filter markets and FDA quality standards.
I suppose the most important question of today is, how can you help us to help you? And the answer to that is very simple. We are looking to the public domain, we are looking to the government to provide grants and to provide loan facilities. The plant that we are building is incredibly capitally intensive. Our plant is going to cost $320 million to build. We can do it with less. We can start with 80 million. and get the initial infrastructure and the initial sets of machines in place and use debt financing and cash flow operating income to continually increase and improve the plant over a period of years. However, if we are looking for a very, very quick ramp up and to be operating at full capacity within the next 24 to 36 months, we would require a minimum of 160, but ideally $320 million of investment. Blown and spun blown machines operate for about a 30-year life cycle, 30 to 40 years. And many of the machines that are in America are some of the old, original, pre-2006 machines. There have been significant innovations and technological improvements since then. Most of the recent machines have gone to either Israel or Turkey. Some have gone to Germany. Very few have gone to China. The Chinese have been making their own variants of machines, and they've had all kinds of problems in the vacuum pumping. So they use German head units, but they don't fully use German units, and the quality has been significantly lower. They also don't have the correct additive formulas. There's a very unique formula of additives that has to be created, which is the secret sauce, which we happen to know, which makes a significant difference to the end product. There is virtually no domestic production of melt blown and spun blown fabrics within the US. Almost all the companies, while being American, are actually doing the melt blowing and the spun blowing offshore, and are then importing the product to America where they can assemble in America. So there's a difference between an American made product and an American assembled product. When COVID hit, Israel really led the way, and they basically went out and built exactly what we're building. It was a completely self-sustaining, self-sufficient plant that operated from start to finish and was vertically integrated. If you look at melt-blown fabrics and spun-blown fabrics and how they're manufactured in the world, there is basically a valley in Germany that has multiple plants doing this, and that's all that they do. They specialize in it, and there's tens of thousands of products that are serviced by their output. The reality of the situation is that there are a handful of machines that are dotted around the world. We actually have a list of where every machine is on Earth. Most of them are 20 to 30 years old. Turkey's just put together a new setup with 4 brand new machines going into one factory. But to do it on the scale that we need in America, to do it with the efficiency that we need to create a system that's going to operate and function properly, we need to have at least 20 to 30 machines in one building. The building needs to be hermetically sealed, it needs to be dedicated to this, it needs to have a positive pressure environment, it needs to have redundancies in power. We're going to have solar, wind power and backup generators. Everything will be done. We're actually going to have accommodation on site. Most of our employees will be veterans or females, and we will have healthcare on site, we will have food on site, we will have accommodation on site. We are building the site with multiple redundancies, so we have silos that can operate for at least 14 days. So should there be a storm or some kind of event, we'll be able to continue manufacturing and continue running. Everything has been built for redundancy. I want to run through a little about what the money will be invested in and what we're building. The plant is a 600,000 square foot plant in Dayton in Texas. We will have 2 sets of train lines running into it. We have 2 train sidings. We have the largest supply of PP1500, which is the raw material, is actually stored in the train yard, which will be adjacent to the property. We are building ultimate backup and redundancy. We have solar power, we have wind turbines, we have alternate generators. We have our own separate building. The building will be hermetically sealed and will be a positive pressure environment, so no contaminants can enter the building. The staff will be on site. The building will be running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The majority of our employees will either be veterans, disabled veterans, or women. We're looking at employing all of the right people. We are creating a facility that has its own gym. It's going to have accommodation on site so that should there be a storm or any kind of situation, the plant can keep running. There will be food and catering on site. There will be a creche on site. We intend to look after the employees, and we should be creating about 1,400 jobs, maybe 1,600 jobs, and the plant will run 24. One of the big questions always with capital intensive infrastructure style programs or projects like this is where the ROI is, where the return on investment is. And in this situation, obviously, the return on investment is not necessarily there without public funding. This is a project that is in the best interests of the majority of people in America. It's going to keep America safe, but it is not necessarily something that is particularly attractive to the capital markets because you've got very, very high setup costs in the $160 to $320 million range with relatively low returns if you're producing a very high quality product. We could obviously produce an inferior quality product and therefore get much higher margins, which is what we're seeing take place in the rest of the world, which is why we're seeing substandard products produced. The fabric and filtration layers are the underpinnings, they're the building blocks of all good filtration, and machines have to run about 30% slower to get you to the 99.95% filtration versus the 95% filtration, which is why we see so many 95% masks, 95% HEPA filters and air filters. But the added increase in quality, the added increase in filtration does have a dramatic impact. And when we're looking at protecting key installations and people's health and people's livelihoods and people's longevity, it really isn't an area that we can choose to compromise. And I think that this is one of those situations where we kind of have to put profits aside and have to put return on investment aside to create the best quality product, the healthiest product and the safest product to protect the most people, especially those that are in danger and high vulnerability, older communities, or if we deal with more dangerous pathogens or more dangerous virus, where we start to deal with added mutations and complexities. I believe that taking the quality of the building blocks up to the highest level that we can humanly attain is actually going to have a dramatic impact and create a dramatic improvement and really change the way that we look at, deal with and solve these kind of situations. I think it's always important to address the elephant in the room, which would be my accent. I was born in England and have spent my entire adult working life in America. I chose to be an American citizen, and America is my home. My children are American, and this is the place that I live, that I love, that I believe in and I'm passionate about. And these are my people that I want to protect because I am American.